Well, hello, writers. Welcome to episode number 487 of Ink in Your Veins. I'm Rachael Herron, and I'm so thrilled that you are here with me today as I'm talking to Sophie Berti. This is a fantastic interview about the magic of books that make you want to write. And isn't that what we're all looking for? Sophie is delightful. I'm so happy to have her on the show. Stick around for that. What has been going on around here? Well, I had my writing retreat last week and it was awesome. I followed my heart. I went away for 3 days with four other writing friends, and I have to tell you, it is the most fun you can possibly have. It just is. If you go away with other writers, there's this, I realized what it is when I was thinking about it this week. Sometimes my sisters and I get together on Zoom, and we do not have a Zoom conversation where we sit around and we look at each other and we speak deeply and we have a meeting of the minds. We usually get together on Zoom with things to do. I will come with knitting or cross stitching or mending. Christy, my sister's painting her nails or organizing a room, and Bethany's doing her different crafts or things. And we're spending time in the same place doing things while chatting. And I can't cite the studies, but I know that I've read that studies have shown that conversations are enabled by doing other things while we're hanging out, which, when you think about it, isn't that the way that humanity grew? Was around the campfire, doing things, making dinner, making food, clothing the children, getting the grain, whatever they were doing. People hanging out in circles, talking while they're doing the thing. And that's what happens when writers hang out over extended periods of time to do the thing that they do. We hang out, and of course, we're sitting around the table, we're just chatting, chat, 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 but also we're hanging out in the living room and we're working on words. We're writing, writing, writing. There's just silence in the room as multiple people are doing their thing. We're looking at our phones, we're answering email, we're doing our writing, but we're being together, and it feels like the ultimate way to hang out. It is parallel play. And also, you're with writers, so they get you. I really want to encourage you to do anything you can to go out and meet other writers who you love. Don't hang around writers that you don't love. Find the writers that you love. If you can't easily find a place to hang out with them, then, my darling, you create it. You set up the meetup. You set up the meetup, you run it for 6 months, and then you steal the ones you love the best and you give the meetup to somebody else to run. I'm always encouraging you to do this because it is really a selfish act that will do the most good for you as a writer. Do this selfishly. Also, altruistically, of course. Start a group. Be a good human. But it's okay to go into it knowing I want my people. I want my community. I want to find them, even if it's just one or two other people who get my brain. We stayed in this gorgeous house in a tiny little town called Foxton. We toured the windmill, which is actually a working mill that grinds flour using the wind. It was so cool. I had no idea. I've driven past that windmill a million times and have never stopped. There was a flax stripping museum, which sounds dirty, and it isn't. And as the fiber artist, I was so interested in the whole history of the flax, which is called harakeke here. And that's what the Maori people used to make things. And of course, then it was co-opted, colonialist, etc. But it was so fabulous. I mean, that's the kind of thing you do in a little town is you go to the flax stripping museum and you get marshmallows and you go to the strawberry stand down at Lewis Farms and you eat strawberry ice cream and you eat so many strawberries. And we had is an old villa. Villa is used a little bit differently here. We are not talking about a villa in France. A villa is just like kind of a big old house in New Zealand, but it had 5 bedrooms and there were five of us and it was divine. It was just divine. And then I got in my car and after that was over, I tootled up north a couple of 4 more hours and went to New Plymouth and I stayed in a little apartment that was darling with a very, very nice host who went swimming with me several times and took me to her swim group and I swam with like 18 other people on Waitangi Day. And then we went for fish and chips and it was so fun in the big waves. New Plymouth has big waves. I'm not used to waves. I'm used to being in the harbor and swimming. This was waves that battered you, waves that you could body surf on. Um, and it was amazing. And I have to just go back really quickly to say that when I was with my writing friends, we went to the beach and we got in and we body surfed. And my friend Anne has lived here for 11 years and had never gone all the way in the water like that. And uh, it was one of my happiest moments in life. It really, really was. I got out and I just couldn't stop. Like I could cry thinking about it, just like how happy I was to be with my friends in the sun in this town on the edge of the world with people I love, swimming and playing like children in the big waves. It was so beautiful. Anyway, I had a lot of swimming time, a lot of fun time. Swimming used loosely as usual, bobbing around and jumping around joyfully. And so then when I was alone, I did writing, I did thinking, I did creative work. And what I did was like I started out by saying this, I followed my intuition. And I was supposed to, while I was gone, it was the beginning of February, I was supposed to open the 90-day courses. I usually do that on the first of the month, prior to the month we start. And I had been intending to teach 90 days to done and 90-day revision starting in March. And I couldn't do it. I started to, sitting on the couch with my friends, and I just couldn't do it. So I started journaling and I thought, what is stopping me? And one thing that was stopping me was that um, I think I have mentioned, but I'm going to the Philippines in 3 weeks. This is not writing related, but it is an all expenses paid trip because I have this rare genetic disorder, and pharmaceutical companies are bringing patients and doctors to the Philippines for a conference, and I'm taking it. And I'm also going to go for an extra week and have another retreat by myself. Lala can't come because it's not paid for her, and she's got to watch the animals. So it will just be me. It'll be awesome. But that's where I'm going to be. And where was I going with that? Oh, so starting to teach in March would be difficult to teach those new classes and give the new writers writing their books and revising their books as much support as they would need in those first 2 weeks. I am teaching my grads who are it's like kind of a secret class. It's an open secret, but they know what they're doing, and we're just going to skip a week. So I did open that just yesterday, but I did not open 90 Days to Done and 90-day revision. I still want to teach those classes. I love teaching those classes, but I'm so deep into this book that I'm writing, the novel that I keep talking about, that and into the backlist and working on the fix and getting that out. I want to keep focusing on these projects. So I'm not ready to tell you about it yet, but I will be ready to tell you everything next week. I'm starting something new and delicious and accessible and fun. It's going to be a community where we can hang out, you and me. And I would love that. So I'm kind of pivoting a little bit and I'm following joy. I sat down a couple mornings ago and just wrote out everything that I would like a community to be. And I am really good at creating community. That is one of my superpowers. And I know that and I claim that. And it's going to be a new community for us. And I'd love to have you along. So keep your ears open for that. And also be on my mailing list, please, because those will be the first people to hear. So if you're not on it, link is in the show notes, rachelherron.com/write. rachelherron.com/write. Please come join the list. Number one, it's a cool list, and you get a bunch of cool free stuff and basically everything I know and everything I think about writing. But also, you'll be the first to know about this new venture that I can't stop thinking about, and I can't stop smiling because it is so sparkly and gorgeous and delightful. And what it is going to do is it's going to help writers write joyfully with ease without beating themselves up. Ever. That's the goal. And I can't wait to tell you more about it. So that's coming. And this came directly out of going away and just thinking and just listening and doing a lot of journaling. And that is why I go on retreats. I go away to think. And this time I actually did writing too. Like I said, I probably would. I did. And that was great. I got my copy edits back on The Fix, which is the recovery memoir I will be kickstarting later this year. My copy editor is fantastic, and I haven't actually opened the document yet, but she gave me wonderful notes, and I'm just so happy because her approval means a lot to me. So I'm just really excited to get stuck back into that and recording the audiobook, which I will probably not start until after the Philippines, because I have my goddaughter coming in on Sunday, and she's going to be here for a week, and that's going to be wonderful. So it's just busy times around here, happy times, summery, sunshine times. I feel like there's something else that I really wanted to tell y'all about, and I can't think of what it is. So we will jump into the interview because that is important. That's the most important part. We're going to talk about writing right now with Sophie. Sophie Berti lives in California. Find her hiking in the foothills, chasing her kid around the beach, making tea, or on sophieberti.com. Steeped is her first novel. Here's the interview. Please enjoy and please get some of your own writing done. Come tell me about it. You know I love to hear it. All right, talk to you soon. Well, I am so pleased to welcome you to the show. Will you please share your name and your pronouns with us?
I am Sophie Berti and I'm she, her.
Thank you. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy that you are here. And it's been a long time since we have last seen each other. When was that? Like, I don't know, 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
I I think it must have been at least six because
Oh.
it was before I got pregnant and my daughter's 5.5. So like that plus, 9 months plus a little bit. It's been a while.
Wow. Well, it is so good to see you. And the occasion that we are talking is to celebrate the publishing of your book. And we're going to get into that, which is a book that I just loved. As you know, I enjoyed the heck out of it. And I'm so glad that you have written it. It's called Steeped and it is out now. Can we talk a little bit about your writing process, please? You have a kid, you have a life. How how do you get your work done? How did you get this book done? Tell us all about that.
Well, so first of all, thank you so much for talking with me. I'm really excited. Um, okay, so that particular book, my daughter was not born when I wrote it.
Hmm.
So it's a little bit older, and my process then was a bit different.
Ooh,
Um,
tell me about it, what it was then and how has that
okay.
changed?
Yeah, so then, well, it wasn't super different. I've always preferred morning writing.
Hmm.
Um, so back then, I probably would have woken up, had coffee, walked my dogs, then written. So I probably would have started writing at about 10.
Hmm.
And now what I like to do is wake up at like 5 or 5:30, like if I can get myself up. Depends. I like to write in the dark
Uh,
into as it's getting light.
yeah.
And it's not every morning because just, rest is really important. And
Hmm.
sometimes my daughter will wake up at like 5:35 and I'm like, "Oh, I wrote for 5 minutes." Um, And sometimes she'll write with me. She'll come over now and like sit in my lap and we'll like type out a story together, usually involving squirrels and unicorns, and it's
How
really cute.
cute is that though?
So it's fantastic. Can't be begrudging about that, you know?
No, no, it's bad for productivity, but good for like the soul and
Yes.
her enrichment. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess both are morning writing. Before, I had a lot more flexibility of writing multiple times during the day. And I was also really hard on myself back then. Like, get the
Mm.
words down. Like, I had word goals and like I'd put in like when I wanted the draft to be done. So then it would calculate how many words a day I needed to do. And now I'm like, yay, I wrote for a half an hour. It was great.
It seems like motherhood really opens up self-knowledge for writers like nothing else I've ever seen. The self-knowledge and the self-acceptance. I think it has to probably. Otherwise it would be really, really hard.
Yeah.
I can
I mean, you
imagine.
could also be at war with yourself. Like I've had
Yeah.
stages of feeling really guilty about being preoccupied with my writing while I'm with my daughter. So I try to be like present with the story when I'm with the story, and then present with her and my family when I'm with them. Um,
That sounds really
you
healthy.
just you try. I mean, it's you just try. It's not like that every day or every moment, but um, I think it comes in cycles, just like the cycle of creativity, where you're
Yeah.
sometimes you're really feeling it and sometimes you're not.
What part do you love more? Are you more of a first drafter or more of a reviser?
Ooh, I love generative writing. I love first draft, like super, super rough. Um, Revision is really hard for me. I think in part because I'm so flexible. Like I could change it in any way.
Ah,
Like that's one thing that was really hard for me with like critique groups or even having an agent. Like getting other people's input was kind of almost, I feel like, dangerous to my voice because I I thought like, oh, that person knows what they're talking about. And it
hmm.
made revision tricky because I didn't know what was the core of the story and that should stay through each draft and what was
Hmm.
like, oh, that character doesn't even need to exist and the storyline's super boring.
What a good way of saying that, though, that it's the flexibility that can actually be the problematic part. How do you think that you deal with that now? What have you learned from knowing that about yourself?
Well, writing early really helps.
Yeah.
My brain is much kinder. Um, Having less voices, like I'm much more careful who I share my writing with when it's young. Um,
I feel so strongly about that one. That one's
yeah,
that one's so huge.
a bad a, a comment that isn't even intended to be critical, but it can just derail you.
I the
Like
Yeah.
um, I once had someone say that my draft should be a short story, and it was like, I don't know, it was like 30,000 words long. It was clearly not intended to be, and I,
That's so hurtful.
I never wrote it. I mean, I was in my 20s, and I think I've grown since then into someone who has more belief in what I write, but yeah, it's been a process of getting there.
Oh, and opening ourselves up to that. My heart is just bleeding for that one. I believe that even the wrong eyebrow lift at the wrong time from the wrong person can derail a whole book. I
It's true.
So
Ugh,
we have to be careful. And I'm sorry that that person said that incredibly unhelpful comment.
yeah,
Even if they're
it's
just like
okay.
joshing around or recovering from that is almost impossible.
It's hard, but
Yeah.
one thing I've learned I want to tell you is that nobody really knows what they're talking about.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
like I mean, you read a lot, I read a lot, but we don't read everything and we don't love
Hmm.
everything.
Hmm.
So you get to decide if your writing is working or not. But it can still be hard to decide that for yourself if it's working.
That is, those are such true words, though. The thing for me is I know that now, and it took a while to trust this in myself, but I know when something I'm doing isn't working. And a lot of times I won't know, I either won't know how to fix it or I will think that maybe I'm getting away with it. And therefore, when somebody who knows more than I do, who I trust, says this thing isn't working, I go, oh, you are right.
Mhm.
And then we can have this conversation about it.
Like
But
it's something you were trying to kind of ignore.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. A good editorial letter has never surprised me. They always stick you in the gut and go, yeah, yeah,
Ugh.
yeah, I knew that. Now I have to fix it. Now I have to fix it. May I ask you, what is the most
Yeah.
exciting thing that you've ever realized about your writing process?
Um, hmm. Well, I I think it's really fun. Like I started thinking writing was fun again when I started writing early, and I think part of it was allowing what do you call it? Almost like stream of conscious writing
Hmm.
for fiction. Um, that like I didn't have to be mean to myself and super critical and I could just play.
Hmm.
That was very exciting to be like, oh yeah, I'm choosing to do this because I like it.
Isn't it funny how easily we forget that and how
Yeah.
often we do that? Writing is fun. Thank you for the reminder. What part of writing do you struggle with the most? Is it the revision or is it something else?
Well, definitely revision. Um, for instance, I have multiple drafts right now and I'm writing a rough draft. Like I should be focusing on finishing things. Um, I have a book I really liked writing it and I hired an editor and I got feedback from it and so it's like ready to go for revision
Hmm.
but I'm like nervous like I don't want to mess it up. Sometimes I read it and I think, oh, did I like who wrote that sentence? That's a good sentence. And so feeling like I can like get my fingers back in it is I just don't have the energy for it. But like I could just splash around all morning with like blah 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 blah. This happens with no plot.
It does take kind of a different mindset. Yeah, but let me be the one to assure you that I know that you can't break it. You're not going to make it worse. When you go in there, you will just be making it better. And it is terrifying at first. But we
Okay.
always make we always
Thank
make
you.
our books better. We really, really do. And I've read your work. I know that you do this. So if you hear anything, hear my voice in your head saying you can't break it.
Yeah. Okay. I
And
cannot
it
break
can
it.
be fun. The revising process can
Hmm.
be just as fun and generative as the first draft, I think. But that I definitely have a strong revision
That's an
bias.
interesting
So
thought. Yeah, I know. And I really appreciate hearing your excitement because that helps me feel excited.
yeah,
And reading your book, How to Write a Memoir
yeah.
in
Fast draft your memoir. Yeah.
Fast Drive. Sorry,
Yeah.
that was super helpful too for anyone who's looking for a revision book.
Thank you.
Um, but I think one thing I find really challenging is again that trusting yourself. Like, how do you know if it's good as it is, or there needs to be more here, less there? How do you know that you even wrote the right emotion? It's just I just need to practice it, practice the trust.
It is the perennial difficult question, and editors do help us with that. But no one will ever convince us to the point that we want convincing. And there's this like trust fall that we learn to do
Right.
after a
Like
while.
we
Just like,
need
yeah.
to feel it and
Hmm.
then yeah, just put it out there and be like, whew, that's
Whoosh.
that's part of what I did with Steve. I just
Yes.
thought, you know what? I don't want to write this again. I want it to
Yes.
exist somewhere. So I'm just gonna put it out the door.
I don't want to write this again. Oh, amen to that. What are you really good at writing wise?
Hmm. Well, something I hope I'm good at and would like to be good at is writing really honestly.
Hmm.
Um, with fiction. So I'm
Hmm.
not saying factually, but like that the characters' feelings don't feel contrived.
Hmm.
Um, you can feel their angst, you can feel their yearning. Um, that's what I really enjoy reading, where you
Hmm.
actually feel like all the details are real and almost the imagination around them is what makes them feel like literature.
Hmm.
So
And I can see that
I
in your work. How did you learn to do that?
I want to say I don't know, but that's not a super helpful answer. Probably just by reading and reading books that, well, I feel like you learn. you learn from everything you read, like what you like and what you don't like. And so probably I've read things with voices that just felt really, really real. Like the
Mm-hmm.
characters are just friends.
Hmm. And I think that maybe I'm agreeing with that. I think that perhaps we develop a talent for recognizing that. And this goes back to the trust part, that if we develop a talent for recognizing the kind of writing we like, then we are able to recognize it in our own when we see it. And rather than trying to talk ourselves out of
Hmm.
that, we can actually say, no, actually, that is good. That is, I like that. I would like that if I were coming to this cold as a reader who had never read this before.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good thought. Hmm.
The way we kind of store away what we're learning when we're reading. But that is
Hmm.
that's a large skill to have the feelings not feel contrived on the page. That is, for me, that's always a first draft. Nothing feels real.
Right. It's super hard. I think you have to know your characters and you can't know them until you've written them, unless
Yes.
it is kind of memoir or kind of like a half memoir, half fiction that is fiction, but
Hmm.
um so it is super tough. Yeah. And
And
I
just,
think one thing that
yeah.
helps is paying attention when you're talking to people and therapy. Like
Yes.
deeply feeling emotions and like recognizing their effect in your
Yeah.
body.
I think that's a great comment. I don't know if anybody's ever said that on this show, but not only recognizing the emotion with the help of therapy and learning what they feel like in the body, but also learning through therapy that it's not going to kill you to feel this, that you can feel this, and that you can hold that even for a fictional character. Because our brains still say, this is
Right.
real, this is real. Um, so if anybody is really, if anybody's listening and is really struggling with getting those non-contrived feelings onto the page and they think they might do with a little therapy brush up, it might be super, super helpful. It reminds me of, do you know the emotion thesaurus from Angela Ackerman
Hmm.
and the other one?
I've used that.
It's so great. And I've heard therapists say that they use those books now in their practice to non-writers, just to
Oh,
hold it out to to their client and say, okay, we might be thinking about anger. Can you look at this list of how it feels inside the body? Can you tell me if you're actually feeling these feelings inside? And so then the
wow.
clients start to learn what it feels like to have these emotions too. Isn't that
That
cool?
makes so much sense. Yes. Yeah, because how would you know if you weren't raised with any guidance with like, oh, I can see like what are you feeling in your body? Tell me, like talk me through it. Like I tried to do that with my daughter and it was hard because when you're in a bad mood, you don't want to talk about how you're feeling, but now she'll be like, I am feeling angry and I do not appreciate it.
That is so cute and so important. I'm one of those people, who was raised with none of that talk, and I didn't know where feelings lived in my body or how they felt till I was like 35 and 40,
Yeah,
trying to figure that out.
or like you say that it's not dangerous to feel them. It can be dangerous if you're not in a safe space and
Yes, of course.
there's different kinds of dangers, but just
Yes.
that it's okay to feel it can be okay. I don't want to make anyone feel alarmed. It can be okay to feel deeply sad or deeply
Yes.
deeply anything.
And it can be okay to allow our characters to feel that way and have that feel the emotional impact of that for ourselves just from writing it because we do feel the feelings of our characters. So
Yeah.
providing that level of safety for ourselves as writers, I think is really important too. Beautiful, beautiful answer. What is the kindest thing you've ever done for yourself as a writer?
Ooh. There's a few things that come to mind. Is it okay if I
Yes,
give a
please.
few quickies?
Absolutely.
One I think is treating myself like a writer, like giving myself a pretty notebook and a really nice pen, and like paper I
Yeah.
like to write on, things like that. And another is therapy, honestly.
Hmm.
Um, just understanding myself better. And it really helped my writing too, I think. And then with therapy, there's a book called I think it's called the Mindful Self-Compassion Workbook.
Hmm.
And it helped me just actually
Oh,
be kinder to myself.
is that the Kristen Neff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or Chris is it?
Chris,
Yeah, it is.
yeah.
But yeah, just actually genuinely being kinder to myself and not beating myself up about things that other people probably wouldn't think are big, like, non-writers wouldn't think are a big deal. But because I think writing is such a marathon that moment to moment doesn't always feel like really beautiful and
Yeah.
productive. So
Yeah.
it's really like, okay, this is normal. It's normal
Not,
to write a paragraph that you think is terrible.
I was
And
actually just going to ask you, like, what's a specific use case that you have practiced this compassion with, but I just heard you say it, like telling yourself this is normal to write a crappy paragraph. It's
yeah,
normal.
I mean, I hear it now, like even just calling it a crappy paragraph feels kind of unkind.
I've changed my language to scrappy. Um,
Scrappy. Ooh, it makes
scrappy.
me think of like a cute little terrier.
I
I
know.
love that.
Just getting rough and getting it done. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be pretty. It just needs to
Yeah.
be there. Yeah. But that could be a self-compassion moment. Any other tools that you use from self-compassion in that?
Well, yeah. So just practicing the way you talk to yourself as if it was your friend.
Hmm.
We're hopefully not all a-holes to our friends.
Hmm.
Um, and then just reminding myself that, like, yeah, it's normal to feel this way. Many writers feel this way, and just to not take it as truth. Any negative
Yeah.
self-talk, it's not true. Usually it's just, I think it's just fear of exposing something about yourself,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
fear is
And
and fear is really strong and
yeah,
scary and it makes people act in all sorts of ways.
yeah. And writing is so vulnerable. Like, or you make yourself so vulnerable, even if it's writing a book that has nothing to do with who you are or your life. It still does. It still came from you.
It's
So,
yeah, I think it's
yeah.
lifeblood is still our soul. Our soul is still in it,
Yeah.
even if we've never experienced anything on that space station ever. Yeah. Would you please tell us about a specific time that you knew you had ink in your veins?
So by this question, is it like when I knew I wanted to be a writer?
Yeah.
That kind of, okay. I mean, gosh, always. But there there was there's a book I read. I Captured the Castle by
Oh
Dodie
yeah.
Smith.
Uh-huh.
I read it when I was a teenager, and I I just freaking loved it. Like, I felt like I wanted to be writing when I was reading it,
Oh,
and I wanted
yes.
to keep reading it, and I wanted to make friends with the author and the characters. And I just felt, and the character herself loves writing and loves literature, so it really
Mhm.
was like being with a writing friend. Um, and it just made me feel so like it was possible,
Mm.
like that other people were writers, that people wrote, but I mean, obviously people write books because I was reading books all the time, but um, I think I didn't realize that it could be me, and I think that helped. Plus,
I
it's just such a great book.
I want to revisit that. I have not read that since I was a kid, but somebody else just mentioned it the other day too. I don't remember where I saw that, but and I love what you said. I wanted to be writing while I was reading it. That
Hmm.
is the mark of a book that I am loving. If I have that feeling
Me
when I
too.
am reading it. I just finished The Vanished Birds and I can't get over it. And I kept slowing down because I had to keep stopping just to go write something that was completely not related, but it kept
Oh,
giving me that feeling.
oh, I love
So,
that. I'm gonna write that one down.
it was
Vanishing
so good. The,
Birds,
the Vanished Birds by
The Vanished
Simon
Birds.
somebody. But yeah, it was gorgeous.
Okay.
Will you tell us about the best book that you read recently and why did you love it?
I'd love to. So there's two.
Great.
One is a writing book. If you want to write,
Oh, by Brenda
classic.
Euland. That was
Yes.
my first book I ever got on writing.
I
My high school
just
teacher
love
gave
it.
it to me. If
I
you
just
want
love her
to.
so much. She's has such a generous spirit. She just wants everyone to love what they're doing and to write and express themselves. It's like, so great. Um, so this
Wonderful.
one just feels like such a nurturing, like
It's a
lifting oneself up kind of book,
it's a classic and not many people talk about it, you know?
which
If
is
they
surprising. I
Oh
will
yeah.
say this cover of this version, to me, it looks like it's a ghost story,
It
but
does.
I think I don't know what it's supposed to be, but
Sometimes I
it's
have
not what
mine
I would
within.
ever,
Yeah, no, I wouldn't pick that up in a bookstore. Mine
I
doesn't look
never
like
would
that.
pick it
Mine is
up. I
blue.
went and looked for it, but yeah, it's not like super attractive. But it's magical inside.
Yeah.
She's just a cool lady. Oh, and the other one is Women Who Run with Wolves,
I've
which
never
is, what is
read
it?
that.
Dr. Clarissa. Oh, you haven't. Okay, I'm forgetting her last name. I think it's Estes. I'll look it up real quick because I want to make sure.
I can almost see it in my head. It's like three names, right?
Clarissa Pinkola Estes.
That's it, right?
It is, it's just amazing. Um,
What did it give you?
oh, sorry, I lost the Zoom. There we are. Um, it was another book that made me want to write while I was reading it. She's just a fantastic storyteller, and she uncovers like, there's all this folklore and fairy tales that are about women and different, I'm forgetting all the right words, but like the hag, the
Oh,
like
Maiden, Mother,
lost
Crone, and
children, and like,
archetypes. Yeah, yeah.
yes, thank you, all these archetypes. And she talks about like what it really means. And I don't know, just as a woman, it felt very, very freeing. Like she talks about having hair on your face and like
Hmm.
being slobby and being hungry and having desire and all these things that just, I feel like if you can read this and feel it in yourself, how can your own writing not improve? I mean,
And that goes right back to what you were saying
yeah.
about putting the real feelings, non-contrived,
Yes,
onto the page.
exactly.
Ooh, so that
Yeah.
makes me want to read it just to improve my writing.
I
That's
think you couldn't help but, I mean, it
ah,
could only improve your writing. And she has so many other books I want to read. There's one about, I think it might even be called The Cycle of Creativity, but it's like
hmm.
creativity as a life cycle.
Ooh, I want to
And
read
it
that
just
too.
makes me feel like that's another way to be kind to yourself. That, if you're
Yeah.
feeling empty, that's maybe part of your life cycle with creativity.
Because there are cycles that I loved the book Wintering by Catherine May too. It's about the
Oh,
springtime.
yes.
Sometimes we are fallow
Yes.
and it doesn't feel good,
Mm-hmm.
but it is just, we don't get mad at trees when they lose their leaves. They do. They have to.
Right.
So
We just let it
beautiful.
be.
Speaking of awesome books, will you please tell us a little bit about Steeped?
Okay. Um, well, Steeped is about a girl who is learning to trust herself, really, and trust her interests. Um, she is working at a tea shop in Seattle, and she learns of a tea brewing competition and enters it sort of to try to, I guess it's to get the owner excited about tea because he's going to be selling the business, or not selling the business, closing the business. And she also meets a movie star who's sort of, mm, I don't know if he's hiding out, but he's sort of like he's in a fallow period. Um, and so it's about her just going through her insecurities and following her curiosity, trusting her, trusting herself, and opening herself up to possibilities and love. And it's a rom-com, I guess.
Perfect. Perfect. And it
Rom-com.
really
Yeah.
stuck with me. You've done such a good job with that character that I read so many books and I forget them immediately as soon as I finish them. And that's fine. I don't mind that that happens to me, but I remember that character and I knew what it felt like to be her. And that is an uncommon thing that does not stick with
Mm.
me through books. So
Oh, thank you. That
thank,
means so much.
thank you for letting me read it a little bit early too. Where can we find it and where can we find you out there?
The book is currently up on Amazon.
Mhm.
And then you can find me at my website, sophieberti.com. I also have a
Perfect.
Substack, and I'm on Instagram, I think as Soph Berti. And
Berti.
yes,
Yeah,
Sophberti. And I think that's about it.
perfect. Sophie, thank you. It has been such a wonderful treat to get to talk to you about writing and about this book. And I'm just so happy for you and proud of you.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel.